Good evening, everyone. This is Spartan News. This is the Spartan. It is an exciting day in the world of the Ukraine conflict. If you haven't heard by now, there is a hot conflict going on between the Wagner Group, Evgeny Prigozhin, and the Russian MoD. It's breaking news. We have some videos. We have a lot of unconfirmed stories, reports, and rumors. And we're going to basically walk through what we know, what we can find out. And I just wanted to caveat and basically say a lot of it is unconfirmed and it is breaking as we speak. So you'll have to bear with me. I wanted to get some information out there for those of you who are not aware that there is an ongoing whether it is a coup, a civil war, a rebellion, whatever you want to call it, between Wagner and the Russians, and who started it, where it's going, where it will end. A lot of that's not going to be answered tonight, but let's run the intro, and then we'll get back into this.
Рідна земля мати, Господь, Отець наш Небесний, благословіть. Я йду знищувати! Ворогів землі рідної! Вбив моїх братів! Гвалтівників моїх посадок! Нехай рука моя буде твердою! Щоб вбивати ворогів! Нехай око моє буде ясним! Щоб вбивати ворогів! Нехай зброя моя буде справною! Щоб вбивати ворогів! Нехай воля моя буде сталь! Щоб вбивати ворогів! Україно, рідна земля мати, Господь, Отець наш Небесний, благословіть наш рішучий наступ, нашу священну помсту, нашу святу перемогу.
All right. Welcome back. And anyone who joins us, please feel free to like, subscribe. I've only done a couple of other live broadcasts before, and I was basically wondering when and if I would do another one, whether or not that would be because of the fact that we had a breakout of the Ukrainian forces somewhere in the south or the west of Ukrainian occupied territories, etc. The last thing I was expecting was to be running a live broadcast on a Friday night, informing you about a civil war breaking out potentially in Ukraine in this against Wagner versus Russia, and potentially in Russia proper. So I tried to skim through a lot of the key highlights. In general, what we know is that the Wagner Group and Prigozhin and some online Telegram resources from Russia are claiming that the Russians attacked a Wagner base with cruise missiles. in response, basically Prigozhin has stepped up and basically put out statements saying he's calling for open rebellion for the Russian forces to join him. There are some hostage type videos of Russian MoD generals sitting in the same room. Looks like they've occupied the same chair, one after the other, basically asking Prigozhin to stop and rethink. There's rumors that there's a Wagner column that has crossed the border into Russia. There are Russian troops on the streets of Moscow and other Russian cities. We're seeing that's kind of a preamble or an overview of some of the key things that I've seen so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through some of the different things that I've found online. We'll start with Reddit. We'll walk through some of the highlights there. I'll flip over to YouTube, or sorry, to Twitter. I know there's some breaking news there as well. And hey, Benny, thanks for joining the chat. Great to see you. First live chat with somebody, or first live stream with somebody in the chat. So I'm kind of excited, and I'm also more excited that this might be because of the fact that something is going very well in Ukraine's favor. So to get started, and again, a lot of these news items are unconfirmed, like literally hot off the press, being typed as we're speaking, sort of thing, and not everything is confirmed. I personally don't believe this is a game of 5D chess. I do not believe that this is a ruse between Wagner and Russia. Prigozhin's been getting angrier and angrier and pushing the limit more and more, and some of the statements that have come out from Russian MoD, including potentially an arrest warrant issued and a cease and desist and all that sort of stuff against Wagner, and troops rolling out in the streets, it really tells me that this is legit. Anybody who knows their history, when armored equipment rolls in the streets of Moscow around those two ring roads, that typically means something not good is happening. They don't do that for show. It's either a parade on May 9th or it's something bad happening. So here we go. So again, this one is not translated, so I can't really tell you exactly what the article states. But Russian MoD started cracking down on Wagner. Unconfirmed reports: Russian special forces from various that's silly the way they typed it. Russian special forces units are allegedly pulled into Rostov-on-Don for a special mission. The mission, Prigozhin and Wagner, unconfirmed. And Rostov-on-Don, I think we'll come across it in a little bit. I have seen videos of armored personnel carriers. It looks like BMPs rolling through the streets of Rostov-on-Don. This one, I'm not going to push the limit on this one because this gets not safe for work right at the end. I am going to cut it off because there's going to be the part of your body that holds a glove without the rest of the body attached to it. How's that for YouTube censors? But I am going to press play, and I think I know where to cut this off because I've pre-watched it for you guys. This is what used to be a Wagner base. And it has been purportedly hit by Russian cruise missiles, and these are apparently Russian soldiers coming in with their cameras on after the fact to see the damage that's been done.
Сука, ебать, в шаг, блядь. Сука, ебаный в рот, блядь. Ебать.
So I'll stop it right here. This is not where the not safe for work part comes in, but this to me, not being an explosives expert by any means, this to me looks like a blast radius. You can see the way A lot of items are blown out. The vegetation has basically been cleaned out. It looks like the bark may have been stripped off, but it looks basically like this something may have landed, exploded in this general vicinity and cleared out this particular area. It looks like it's been sandblasted, but that's just my opinion. Early look. You can see with everything strung up into the trees, things blown out. Like it really does look like the land's been kind of stripped bare, like you'd see after a hurricane or something like that, or a large explosion. And it looks to be an airburst to me. I don't really, unless somebody else sees it, I don't see a crater. I've looked twice. To me, it looks like something detonated a couple of feet off the ground, a few feet off the ground. I cannot see a crater. Now, here's the trench. And you can just basically see everything. Okay, so there we've got some remnants, something burning. I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. Okay, and I'm going to stop it right there. Whoops. If those are truly Wagner troops, if this video is to be believed, then there are a couple of them clearly out of the game. From the Wagner official channel. And by the way, if anybody's watching this, please subscribe, please like, and throw some comments in. Even if you've got no questions, not to say that I'm going to be the one to answer them for you, but if you want to say where you're from, thoughts on the potential for this to be true, for this conflict to blow up, etc., whatever you want to throw in there. I do know that the algorithm loves comments, loves chats. That's the way to get a channel kind of some more viewers, some more notices around there. Anyways, this is from the Wagner's official channel. Dennis, I don't know if Dennis translated this, Dennis Davidoff, or he can translate it. I believe he speaks Russian, or it might have come from Word Translator. But we were likely deceived and tried to deprive us of the opportunity to defend our homes and disperse the Wagner PMC. I think that means maybe like withdraw from conflict. We were ready to make concessions to the Ministry of Defense, surrender our weapons, and find a solution on how we would continue to defend our country. These scum launched rocket attacks on our rear camps. A large number of our soldiers died. We will decide how we will respond to this atrocity. The next step is ours. Evgeny Prigozhin, or Gollum Prigozhin as I like to call him. He does look like Gollum, you gotta admit that. If anybody thinks he looks like something else, throw it in the chat. Thanks for the thumbs up, Benny. Evgeny Prigozhin published an audio message claiming that a huge number of Wagner fighters have died. That's to match the online channel in the missile strike, and that the next step belongs to Wagner. That's what we heard. I think we're going to have an actual audio, or I think it's an audio of Prigozhin coming up. Don't really care, I'm not really concerned at the moment about a Chinese firm sending a large shipment of gunpowder to a Russian munitions factory. One of the Russian black powder, gunpowder factories burned. They only have a couple, and the Chinese are basically trying to do what they can to support the Russians without sending official hardware. Evgeny Prigozhin, here we go. Evgeny Prigozhin declares war on the Russian Ministry of Defense. Press service of Evgeny Prigozhin has circulated yet another of his statements. The Board of Commanders of the PMC Wagner has made a decision. The evil brought by the military leadership of the current country must be stopped. They disregard the lives of soldiers. They have forgotten the word justice, and we restore it. Therefore, those who destroyed our men today, those who have obliterated tens, maybe tens of thousands of lives of Russian soldiers. And I'm sorry, I got to stop right there. This guy is rich. He went and got 50,000 prisoners out of prison in Russia threw green clothing on them, gave them a couple of weeks of training if they were lucky, and turned them into target practice in Bakhmut so he could identify where Ukrainian firing positions were. And he's a man of the people. Anyways, they will be punished. I asked no one to resist. Anyone who attempts to resist, basically resist Wagner, will be considered a threat and immediately eliminated, including any checkpoints in the country that stand in our way, any aircraft we see over our heads. I urge everyone to remain calm, not to succumb to provocations, to stay in their homes. It's like a public service announcement. It is preferable not to go out on the street alone, along our route, after we have finished what we have started, this is so good, we will return to the front to protect our homeland. Basically, he's saying he's going to go into Russia and he's going to take over or take some retribution. And then once he's done, don't worry, he'll turn around, he'll go back to the front and take on the Ukrainians. The presidential power, the government, the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Rosguardia, and other structures will continue to operate as usual. We will deal with those who destroy Russian soldiers and return to the front. Justice within the troops will be restored. After that, justice for all of Russia. And this is just the start. This is 4 hours old. Russian Ministry of Defense preparing an emergency statement, and I haven't seen it yet, but I'm only one guy, so I'll see if I can pull it up. Hi, Be Mindful. So to catch you up real quick, the Wagner group has basically accused the Russian Ministry of Defense of using missiles, potentially cruise missiles, to attack one or more Wagner bases in the sort of the reserve area, if you want to call it that. It basically was in occupied Crimea, occupied Ukraine, and we covered off a video just a little while ago. You can see it in the stream if you back up, where basically a couple of Russian troops are walking through one of the Wagner camps after it's been hit by cruise missiles, potentially some sort of airburst missiles, and surveying the damage, including clearly some dead soldiers. And Prigozhin is claiming that many of his soldiers were killed, and he's going to take retribution out on Russia. He's declared war. Yeah, you're right. The video on its own is I don't. So and I started off the stream. I don't know if you heard the very start of it. I said a lot of it is going to be unconfirmed, hot off the press, single sourced, no video, some rumors, that sort of thing. If the video on its own, if you saw it on its own, you'd think that could be Russians or Ukrainians or Wagner or whatever walking into any camp, and it's not time stamped and it's not geolocated. So yes, but when you kind of look through the choreography of what would need to be happening to pull off a fake, is you need that video to come out, and then you need to show some clearly deceased individuals, and then you need to have Prigozhin come out and declare open war, and then the Ministry of Defense of Russia basically declare him persona non grata and put out generals begging for him to stop, and then roll out armor across multiple cities. It's well choreographed. I think it's legit. There was the last I'll talk on that, and again, I think I mentioned it, but I stopped it before. Actually, if you see where I stopped it, if you look to the bottom left sort of thing, there's a body, and I stopped it before it got to the last couple of frames, the last couple of scenes. The last scene, there is a detached glove holder of a human. How's that? I don't want to say the words and get dinged by YouTube, but I've seen it, and if you search for Russians attack Wagner base and you look up the video yourself, watch it to the end, you'll be able to see that. Anyways, I'll move on, but welcome the comments. Thank you. And there's going to be people that are going to be throwing out Ministry of Defense for Russia is going to throw out some fakes. They're going to put some pump fakes out there because you never miss an opportunity to throw your enemy off. So they'll try to throw off the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians might put out some disinformation. Who knows? It's our job basically to look at everything in its totality and ask the right questions and decide at the end of the day if you're going to believe it or not. Prigozhin declared foreign agent, source Rybar. Rybar, and again, I haven't looked at Rybar's account recently, so I don't know if he said that for sure. But he's pretty well in touch with the Russian front lines, mill bloggers, Ministry of Defense, that sort of thing. Russian Defense Ministry raised the Russian Guard for combat readiness in Moscow. I don't know if this is a photo of the troops or just a photo of that. Yeah, so those are the ring roads. I will get to the video. We have video, so I'm not going to trust, a picture of a statement. Oh God, I hope I don't. I think I might have lost my. I'm gonna have to. Why did I do that? All right. No. Well, I've lost my spot, and now I'm gonna have to go see if I can find it without giving. Oh God, you're gonna see all the goodies. These are some of the things I already scrolled through. Anyways, and more has come out. Some of these I haven't seen yet. Okay, I think we're about, the hostage videos. So I wanted to show you those. And apologize for my voice. Okay, so we're going to start here. Russian opens criminal case against Wagner chief for inciting armed rebellion. I've seen that online in multiple places. I wouldn't consider that completely verified because I didn't, find something translated on the Russian Ministry of Defense. But I have seen that come from several different sources. Russian Telegram channels report that TV channels in Russia have been hacked and are now broadcasting Prigozhin statements. They must have the easiest TV channels on the planet to hack because I know they've been hacked at least 4 times.
Я же вам включил фильм, посмотри, выскакивает, блядь, черт лысый.
Это что за канал? Это НТВ?
Дом кино.
Дом кино.
So these are Russians watching their TV as it's been hacked with Prigozhin's face and his message being broadcast into their living rooms.
Странно. Она так еще будет повторяться, да?
Да, все.
Ну да.
I cannot read Russian language and I cannot read Cyrillic or understand it other than when they throw in a westernized word once in a while. I know a few phrases, but nothing, just the repetitive ones that you heard. Plus, and when they fire ammunition, like a fire howitzer, a few other things. Here's the military rolling. And again, that's supposed to be in Rostov-on-Don. Russian channel Don't Stop War reports that a 50... Now, this one, big grain of salt. No idea. But Russian channel Don't Stop War reports that a 50-kilometer long Wagner column has crossed, the Novo-Shastinskaya border checkpoint into Russia, reportedly heading for Novosibirsk towards Rostov-on-Don. The column itself has not yet been visually confirmed. So that was one of those complete rumors. Do not believe it until you see it. It doesn't seem like Wagner would make it that easy and roll with a huge column. He knows how well that worked for the Russians when they originally invaded Ukraine. But, and again, these are the ones that I really wish we had the translation for. The translation is not available. But if you look at, this is Surovikin. Surovikin at one point was put in charge of the Ukrainian war effort. He's the one who was responsible for all the fortifications being dug 2 and 3 levels deep all throughout, the Donbass and Kherson and etc. He's the one who convinced Putin to allow the Russians to vacate the eastern bank or the right bank of the Dnieper River because the troops were being trapped over there with all the bridges being taken out, etc. And then once he got those troops out, pretending that it was a civilian evacuation, evacuating them into city, coach buses, that sort of thing. He got all the troops out. It was basically known as one of the better evacuations or retreats in the Ukrainian war on either side. And then had all of the fortifications dug, the Dragon's Teeth put in, the trenches, the mines, all that sort of stuff. After all that was done, turned out that he was a very, very close ally of Prigozhin. And he was removed and put basically third in charge, I think, of the military now, basically demoted after he did all that. And a lot of the Russian chatter was because of the fact that he was tight with Prigozhin. Anyway, so I'll I just want you to look at the background, look at the table that he's sitting at, and then look at this. Not only are they sitting at the same table, they're either sitting in the same chair or they're side by side and the camera switches from one to the other. But he's basically asking for, apparently, Prigozhin to stand down. I don't have the translation for this. But that's not a deep fake. I do know his voice and face, and that is legit. I'm just going to check down here. Sometimes somebody nice throws in a translation. Might be too early. Bear with me. No. I've seen a couple of comments on that video basically saying that he's asking Prigozhin to stand down, stop what you're doing, that sort of thing, but I have not seen an official translation of it, so I apologize. Here is from the Wagner Telegram channel. This is very interesting. One word in Russian, begin. Almost like they've had something planned for a while, and he's basically telling all the troops, it's time, let's do this. And yeah, it looks, yes, be mindful. I don't disagree with you. I think 99% of what Russian Ministry of Defense officials, generals, etc. say, they're being forced by somebody to say it. Very seldom do you get something honest, like, Surovikin basically saying, hey, go get him, brother. I'm with you all the way. I'll come join you. Probably what he wants to say, because he and Prigozhin are very, very tight. These guys look like they've been sat in a very sparse room. Side by side, you can see another chair right there, and basically said, you better get on camera and tell him to stop. So here's the next guy, either in the same chair or he's just, maybe there's a little shadow over here. Maybe Surovikin's over here. This is Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, First Deputy Head of the Main Directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. Man, his business card must be huge with that name.
Братья по ЧВК «Вагнер». Я с первого дня существования организации выполнял с вами боевые задачи. 14-й год, 15-й, 16-й. Взаимодействую активно и сейчас.
Yeah, and again, no translation. Let me just double check to make sure no one's thrown in a translation for this gentleman with the incredible resume. Not doing a full translation, but he says that he has worked with Wagner Group for the first days of its establishment and respects them deeply. Nevertheless, what they're doing right now, enticed by the provocation of some irresponsible individuals, like the ones who drop missiles on your camps, is a great blow to the country that is already in a very difficult situation. These actions will be met with delight in the West that is supplying Ukraine with weapons. These actions undermine the authority of the president, who alone can appoint or fire senior military staff. Like, you can't come in and take over the Ministry of Defense or fire or remove people. That's Putin's job. This is backstabbing the country. He appeals to Wagner to refrain from actions that will lead to many lost lives and will be the greatest imaginable blow to the country right now. There you go. Moscow at the Russian parliament. This is the white, I believe this is the white parliament building that that was fired on back in 1991, was it? The coup attempt? That doesn't tell you a lot. I believe that is in the direction of the Central Ring Road and Red Square, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. I remember I've seen this building from up high, like almost satellite view or helicopter view. And I think they're going towards Red Square, and the Kremlin, but I could be wrong. More videos of military technicians. I think that might be a lost translation, but military equipment. If I remember correctly, is it the 22nd Naval Brigade that's responsible for Kremlin security? But again, Prigozhin. We may lose not only Crimea but everything. I've heard him say that before. Military vehicles in the streets of Moscow. Again, more. There's troops inside what I believe is a Ural. Armored, it's almost like an armored, I want to see that again. It's almost like a Ural with an armored cab put in the back. I just don't think I've seen this before. Yeah, it does look like a Ural. There's the regular truck bed, and then this armored area has been put into it. But anyway, sorry. A little digress there. But Wagner affiliated Telegram channel respond to top Russian brass appealing for their surrender. I don't think we're going to get a translation on this one. All the generals who with trembling hands appealed to the musicians is Wagner, appealed to the musicians to stop, have actually signed their own sentence. There will be a tribunal. Surovikin will still answer for the surrender of Kherson. Ooh. I thought they were good with that. I thought that was a pretty smart retreat, but apparently not. Very, very interesting. Lots of layers to this onion. There are reports about the government business jet of Lukashenko leaving Belarus. Ooh. If Lukashenko is leaving Belarus, where is he going to go? I mean, he's Putin's lapdog. Is he being called to Moscow? Or is he bugging out? I don't know where he would go. He has no friends. I don't know. That's a new one on me. I'm not gonna speculate too much on that one. I wouldn't be surprised that he was called to Moscow. And if Putin's worried, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get Kadyrov and some Chechens to drop into Moscow and act as security. Russian armored vehicle spotted in the center of Moscow. FSB Moscow, Voronezh, Rostov-on-Don set up checkpoints. In case of threat, the troops were ordered to open fire.
Добрый вечер из Москвы.
That's the same vehicles I think we saw further down. It was that BMP and then that armored Kamaz,
Вот
or armored
так.
Ural.
Вот у нас Это
Maybe
что,
different,
такая
but-
метро? Так вот живем.
Russia accuses Wagner chief of urging armed mutiny. I don't know if we've got an actual press release on that. Oh. So, this is potentially the Wagner convoy that is supposed to be crossing into Russia. Again, I don't know if this is geolocated, but you're seeing it as soon as I am. This is a new one on me.
А это Z, ты понял? Чисто Z, да?
So that very well could be a, the first view of the Wagner column. If the Wagnerites did basically get that upset and basically hop in their vehicles and charge into Russia to take revenge. Unconfirmed military unit reported to be on fire in the Moscow region. Oh, by the way, that TV hack as well, showing Prigozhin's face on Russian TVs. There's a really, really good chance that was Ukrainians doing that because they're renowned for hacking into the television sets. But
Вот, ночь с 23 на 24 июня, Фрязино. Горит военная база. Вот там что-то взрывалось, как бы дым очень высоко.
hey, be mindful. Just curious, where are you from?
Угольки высоко в небе. Через куски не видно, там прям открытое пламя. А, ну вот оно. В общем, такие дела.
This appears to be a pretty large fire. You can see it spread out over a
Пить, как я понимаю.
fair amount of land. It doesn't seem to be too far in the distance, and it seems to cover a good chunk of the horizon. Troubled times are coming. Zelensky's team responds to the conflict between Prigozhin and Russian military defense. Live camera near Moscow. A military convoy just went by. Need help finding more live cameras. But I believe it's... Oh, okay, I was going to say it's nighttime. Can I back this up? So that's a live camera feed of looks like a border crossing, and unfortunately I can't, it's a live stream, but I can't back it up at all, so I can't tell you. Let me see if I can grab, I'd like to watch this. Can I copy the... Yes, I can. Share. Copy this. Apologies. I want to, I just want to watch this on another window, just in case something happens. Another convoy goes by, something like that. Anyways, back out of that. We'll keep moving on up. Russia accuses mercenary boss of mutiny after he says Moscow killed 2,000 of his men. If he's reporting the death toll is 2,000. Okay, that's an old video. Russia accused mercenary chief Evgeny Prigozhin of calling for armed mutiny on Friday after he alleged, without providing evidence, that the military leadership has killed 2,000 of his fighters and vowed to stop what he called its evil. As a long-running standoff between him and Defense Ministry appeared to come to a head, the ministry issued a statement saying Prigozhin's accusations were not true and are an informational provocation. I apologize. Prigozhin said his actions did not amount to a military coup, but Russia's FSB security services opened a criminal case against him for calling for an armed mutiny, the TASS news agency said on Friday, citing the National Anti-Terrorism Committee. The Kremlin said President Vladimir Putin had been informed and that necessary measures are being taken. The standoff, many of the details of which remain unclear, look like the biggest domestic crisis Putin has faced since he sent thousands of troops into Ukraine in February last year in what he called a special military operation. Prigozhin, whose frequent tirades on social media belie his limited role in the war as head of the WAGNER, so I don't like that statement, that belie his limited role in the war. He and Wagner were the reasons why the Russians broke out in the east through Popasna, eventually took Soledar, and then eventually took 99% of Bakhmut. No other Russian units had anywhere close to the success Wagner did. Now, that's not to say they're military geniuses. When you have 50,000 troops that you can treat as basically target practice, and you get your more than your fair share of jets, artillery, ammunition, armor, etc., equipment, you better take more territory than the standard Russian unit. But anyways, a little sidebar there. I'm not trying to give the guy props, but at the same time, he didn't have a limited role. And I've lost where I was. Prigozhin, who's frequent. Here we go. Openly accusing Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Russia's top general Valery Gerasimov of rank incompetence and denying his forces ammunition and support. The problem is he was getting way too much ammunition and support, and then when it was cut back, he got mad. Just one sec, checking the chat. Benny, are you in Hawaii? Do I know how big Wagner's PMC is compared to the in a percentage compared to Russian's MoD? So it's very difficult to track because of the fact that the numbers have ebbed and flowed so much. So originally the Russian military entered Ukraine with roughly 200,000 troops there or about. Some people have said it was as low as 180. Some people said it was as high as 220, 250. It seemed to be somewhere around 200,000. And then you can look, then you have to work your way through and say, okay, so Wagner originally supposedly entered into the Ukraine conflict with their hardcore Wagnerites of around 10,000. Again, I've seen 7,000, I've seen 15, but around 10,000 seem to have been the estimate. 99% of the Wagner troops that entered were actually fighting troops, whereas about 30 to 40% of the Russian troops were actually frontline fighters, and the rest were everything, leadership, logistics, etc., nothing to do with frontline troops. So very, very hard to say. Since then, the Wagner basically, air quote, recruited upwards of another 40,000 or closer to 50,000 prisoners and forced conscripts into Wagner. So then you could say, okay, was that take them up to 60,000 or so? Then you can say that they approximately lost around 20 to 30,000 of their troops in the Bakhmut area. So again, what does that take them down to? The numbers are all over the map now, but if they had 60 and they lost 30, that takes them down to 30. Well, then Wagner just came out recently and said 32,000 of the conscripts who fought for them have achieved their 6 months and have now been freed back into Russian society. Well, if they only had 30,000 and 32,000 have been sent back, something doesn't jive there. They're not negative 2,000. I would say that Wagner probably has roughly around 10 to 20,000 troops left. Those that were either prisoners that have achieved their goal of 6 months and living, those that have been conscripted in and signed contracts and basically decided to stay, plus the original Wagnerites. So if I had to guess, it was somewhere between 10 and 20,000. I would say Russia's fighting force is probably down around to about 150,000 or so. You can do the math there and basically say that, you know, what's he got? 14% of the Russian fighting force. That's all just crazy numbers on my part and impossible to validate. I don't even think the Russians could tell you. Okay, the Minister of Defense has ordered 2,000. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead a bit. But early on Friday, he appeared to cross a new line in his increasingly vitriolic feud with the Defense Ministry, saying that the Kremlin's rationale for invading Ukraine was based on lies concocted by the Army's top brass. I read that played that in a previous post today. Then in a series of late evening audio messages on his official Telegram, Prigozhin said the Ministry of Defense has ordered 2,000 bodies that are being stored to be hidden so as not to show these losses. He added, those who destroyed our lads, who destroyed the lives of many tens of thousands of Russian soldiers, will be punished. I ask that no one offer resistance. There are 25,000. There you go. No, he's saying there's 25,000 of us, and I didn't even know he was going to say that. I was estimating around 30, so I was pretty close. There are 25,000 of us, and we are going to figure out why chaos is happening in the country. Unverified video posted on Telegram channel. Yes, so that was the video that we watched earlier. Anyway, so there you go. There's that. The Tverskoy Police Department in Moscow has been strengthened. The department is fenced. 4 people in helmets and body. It's fenced. 4 people in the helmets and body armor. Access to the building is only through them. All are armed with machine guns. Am I not seeing it? Is it at the front door over here? It's not a very good. It's a terrible video. Doesn't show us anything. Anyways, but thanks for the effort. Just checking the chat. Yes. There are definitely rumors that some of the Russian military forces have either stood down and or joined Wagner, but again, the pure rumor. Like, so much is unverified. Just now on the Rostov-Moscow highway in the area of the settlement of Cossack camps, the first clash occurred between the advanced groups of Wagner PMCs moving towards Moscow and units of the Russian Guard. So on the Rostov-Moscow highway in the area settlement of Cossack camps, I don't think I'm going to be able to look that up on a map. Cossack camps. I really wish they would geolocate something like that. Let's see if anybody, sometimes people are nice and throw in a geolocation. $18,000 plus, along with you. A lot of people calling in sick tomorrow. Yeah. At the building of the administration of the Russian Guards in Stogino, there is a gathering of fighters, according to the Caution Moscow channel. Literally just need the Chechens to start rebelling so we could all sit back and open up a can of beer. Oh my God. Kadyrov is not going to rebel. Kadyrov might be in trouble if the other tribes of Chechnya see that his sugar daddy is going down potentially. RVC commander announced new incursion in Russian territory. RVC, I believe that is the Freedom of Russia. Is that the Freedom of Russia unit? Yes, I'm pretty sure it is. I think it's a good opportunity for the soldiers of RVC to check the security of the Russian border. I actually saw a video yesterday. I didn't play it in either of my streams, but I saw a video yesterday showing the Russian, one of the Russian Freedom of Russia units, one of their commanders, basically saying that they had finished their first phase, their incursion and retreat, and they're just working on their second phase now, and there will be a third and there will be a fourth. So they'd be silly to not take advantage of a situation like this. Okay. Just checking the chat. Channel 1 Russia announces a special news release, not Swan Lake, but close. Russia investigating Wagner chief over comments. This just got real. Moscow now blocking internet access in Russia due to the Wagner invasion. I wouldn't be surprised, but is this legit? Twitter, Gerashenko. The number one tactic that a lot of oligarchs and a lot of societies like this do when there's any sort of an uprising, rebellion, that sort of thing, they will cut off the television, internet, free press, whatever it happens to be. Russian media report that internet access is being limited in Russia. Only 25% of Russians now have access to Google. Many are experiencing issues with accessing the website. Again, unverified, but Anton Gerashenko is very, very reputable and does a lot of background. Special Operations Command by Major General Valery Flustakov have taken over control of the Ministry of Defense headquarters on Frunzenskaya in Moscow. Right now, there's no way of knowing whose side he's on, Shoigu or Prigozhin. Probably wait and see. Special Operations Forces commanded. So Special Operations Force Commander has taken over the Ministry of Defense headquarters. It is reported that Wagner's column has passed the first checkpoints. They say they are on their way to Novocherkassk, where, oh God, I'm so good at Russian, it's amazing, where the army headquarters are. It is also known that a column of 400 vehicles left Milerovo in the direction of Moscow. Wagner Group fighters have been saying goodbye to their relatives over the past 24 hours and telling them to watch the TV news, which suggests that they may have advance notice of today's dramatic events with Evgeny Prigozhin. I'm just going to leave that right there. See if we can get through this. I'm not even to the top of Reddit. Please like, subscribe, share, anything, comment. Love to hear from you guys. Justin, no, I can't read that. Automatic translation. Russian Defense Minister statement: taking advantage of Prigozhin's provocation to disorganize the situation, the Kyiv regime in the Bakhmutovsky tactical direction, Bakhmut, is concentrating units of the 35th Marine Brigade and the 36th Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on the starting lines for offensive operations. Well, they've always been there for offensive operations. They are conducting offensive operations as we speak. They are flanking Bakhmut aggressively. Anyways, we'll leave that one open. That's an interesting one for later. The M4 right now near Rostov-on-Don Road closed after huge traffic jams at midnight. So there's kind of like a Google Street View or whatever showing all the traffic backed up, and the road goes red when there's no traffic moving. Very interesting. People probably trying to leave. Unconfirmed, Ukrainian armed forces have reclaimed some Bakhmut streets. Love it. Ukrainian forces are reportedly conducting active offensive operations in Bakhmut. There are several streets retaken in Bakhmut. There are prisoners. see sometimes these ones generate some videos. If we get any, it's a lot of the same. Lukashenko escaping. Business jet of Belarusian dictator Lukashenko's family took off from Minsk at midnight. And where did they go? Departure and landing. No idea. Not applicable. If he truly is leaving Minsk and he's leaving in that direction, that's towards Moscow. I can tell you that. I'm not great at geography, but I can tell you that one for sure. Security forces on the Moscow streets. Again, nothing surprising there. That's what you do when your dictatorship is falling apart. The FSB, Russia's main intelligence service, said that it opened a criminal case against Prigozhin, once considered one of Vladimir Putin's most trusted fixers, and declared him to be a foreign agent. In case a lot of you don't know, Prigozhin, this guy right here, humble beginnings, started off as a criminal, went to jail, served, I can't remember, was it 8 years of a 10-year sentence or 6 years of a 10-year sentence? It wasn't a full sentence, but then he got out, and then he started, I believe he started the catering company first, and then he became what was known as Putin's chef. And then he became responsible for catering to the entire Russian Ministry of Defense, and then started to branch out, and then with Putin's blessing eventually started the Wagner Group. Okay, so he's not a good dude, and I do enjoy his rants though. I really, really do. I hate to say it. He's a horrible human being, but he's a breath of fresh air when it comes to getting straight statements. He's more entertaining than Gherkin, and gives you more intelligence if you listen. 20% of what he says is a flat-out lie, but if you can pick out the 80 that's true. More military equipment. I believe those are KAMAZ trucks. Almost got my Russian trucks down. The older looking ones are the Urals, and the kind of newer cabs. I believe those are KAMAZ. Some people call them Cam AZ, which drives me nuts. I call them KAMAZ, but that's a lot of trucks. There's about 20, can be about 20 plus guys in the back of each one of those, so I assume they're full. You're not going to bring empty KAMAZ trucks into downtown Moscow. Some of these are the armored, they've got the armored back. Some of them are just have the cloth top. Okay, traffic jams in Moscow. All the red that you see here is all stopped traffic. I can't expand this any further. Oh, no, maybe I can. All the red here, this is basically all traffic jam, stop traffic that's not flowing. People trying to get in, people trying to get out. Neither the FSB nor Sorovikin, I always say it wrong, sorry, Sorovikin, will be able to stop what has begun. Statement from the PMC Wagner. And remember, Sorovikin was the closest ally in the Russian Ministry of Defense. Russian Security Service urges Wagner fighters to ignore Prigozhin's orders and detain him. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Not to follow Evgeny Prigozhin's orders, and also implored fighters to take measures to detain him, according to a Friday statement. We call on the PMC Wagner fighters not to take irreparable mistakes, to stop any forcible actions against the Russian people, not to carry out Prigozhin's criminal and treacherous orders, and to take measures to detain him, said the statement from the Public Relations Center of the FSB. Prigozhin's statements and actions are in fact calls for the start of an armed civil conflict. on the territory of the Russian Federation and are stabbed in the back of the Russian servicemen fighting pro-fascist Russian forces, the FSB statement added. The agency reiterated that the widespread statements about the strikes of the Russian Defense Ministry on Wagner PMC do not correspond to reality and are a provocation. Due to the seriousness of the situation and the threat of an escalation of the confrontation in the Russian Federation, the FSB initiated a criminal case on the fact of a call for an armed rebellion by Evgeny Prigozhin. There you go. Just keeps on confirming what we've heard. More closed roads leading into Moscow. So all of these red dots here are basically closing the roads leading in, which would make sense. You don't want civilian traffic intermingling with your troops as you're trying to get set up in case you are actually expecting somebody with guns to show up. And again, anybody new to the channel, to the chat, feel free to comment, say where you're from, say hello. Subscribe, like, share, ask me any questions. Happy to discuss. Moscow is in lockdown in preparation for an attack from Wagner. A lot of this seems repetitive, but you never know. Seems like that truck convoy that we just saw from a different angle. Be mindful, just put in the chat, he just read that Wagner is claiming that his troops are starting to enter the Rostov region. Yeah, I truly thought, well, first of all, I agree about the the comment, was another mobilization going to be the cause of the coup? I think Putin cannot believe what happened when he announced that mobilization. Like, he did not believe that 1 million men between 25 and 50 were going to head for the border and make it across and flat out leave. And basically he had to shut down the borders. So since then, I think he's been doing a, what do they call it? A ninja mobilization. There was another word, the hidden mobilization, something like that. But basically any reason to arrest people off the street once you graduate college, drinking and driving, any other criminals, whatever, they've been basically mobilizing everybody. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought if anything's going to cause a coup, he's going to be stupid and try to mobilize again. I didn't think Prigozhin was going to hop into I didn't think he was going to hop onto a caravan of trucks and head for Russia. That's insane. That's what happens when you're like, if you think about it, like you look at Kadyrov and you look at Prigozhin and you look at who makes up, if you look at who makes up the actual leadership of the Wagner group, they're terrifying dudes. They're ex-Spetsnaz, ex-VDV, whatever. They fought in the first Chechen War and the second Chechen War. Some of them maybe Afghanistan, Georgia, and they are seasoned. Syria, they fought everywhere. They're bad dudes. And Prigozhin's a criminal. He's a lifelong criminal, and he's employed these thugs, turned them into a company. So what do you think was going to happen? You're going to let this guy take Solidar for you. You're going to let him take Bakhmut for you. You're going to give him his own jets, the best tanks, the best artillery, the best everything, and his pick of the litter from all the prisoners. And then once he takes Solidar and Bakhmut, you're then going to cut him off at the knees and turn off the taps on all of his toys, all of his beans and bullets, and not let him take any more prisoners into Wagner. And then and then when he tries to withdraw from Bakhmut, the Russian MoD mines the roads where he's going to be evacuating with his troops. And then when he stops to clear the mines, you drop artillery on him. And then you drop cruise missiles into his camps once he makes it back to his camps. You can't kill the guy that easy. And you've now turned your most elite fighting force into a hardcore enemy. And he's coming for somebody. Anyways, Moscow. It's just beautiful. Armed BMPs on the streets. They're basically gonna. Let me see if I can. I'll bring up a street view of Moscow. My cap's are on for some reason. I'm not angry. No, that's not what I want. Sorry, map. I didn't think it was going to give me. I guess that's what you get when you do Street View instead of Sky View. Here you go. So basically, these are Moscow is basically concentric rings, right? So they're basically going to clean out all of these ring roads, and to me, these ring roads were not built for a scenic view. I don't know this for a fact, but I've always wanted to research it. But I believe they were built in rings because it's defensible. They've got a river that they can defend, and then they've got circles. Instead of grid lines of streets coming in and out, they've got basically, picture this as a wall, and then another wall, and then another wall, and then the last one, right? So these are concentric circles. Very, very easy to defend compared to your standard city like New York or whatever that looks like a waffle iron, right? There's fewer arteries coming in, and it's easier to defend. That's my personal opinion. I might be wrong, but I just want to throw that out there because I've always believed that, and I've never researched it if it truly is the case. But anyways, this is them slowly but surely starting to cut off all of the ring roads. They're going to clean out civilians. You're either staying indoors or you're getting out of the city. These streets, you're going to see the streets of Moscow for kilometers around the Kremlin empty. Yeah, thanks. Be mindful. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I've always felt that's what the ring roads. That's why they were set up like that way back in the day when Moscow was first made. It's just it's scenic, it's beautiful, but I think it serves another purpose. Anyways, just more KAMAZ trucks moving past I believe this is this is the Parliament. The white building's the Parliament, right? Yes, that's the one that was attacked back in the day. Statement from Prigozhin: we crossed the state border in all places. We are entering Rostov. Units, that's what Be Mindful said. Units of the Ministry of Defense, or rather the conscripts who were thrown to block our road, stepped aside. AP Wagner, real war versus Ukraine. What? Oh, sorry. I was reading that wrong. Wagner. Real war versus Ukraine to start now. I'm not quite sure what that means. Like it hasn't been. AP Wagner channel says Shoigu will not get away with a resignation. It's too late. Says Ukrainians should be worried the war will start for real now. Who wanted Shoigu to resign? Now Shoigu will not get away just with a resignation, but he could be recording TikToks with his son-in-law in retirement in the UAE. Only Ukrainians are now mainly worried for the Tuvan degenerate. After all, after his resignation, the war will begin for real. Okay. So Wagner's going to take over Moscow and then start the war for real. Okay. Let's, I just refreshed it. See all the new stuff that we get. I'm going to go backwards. Okay, here we go. The Wagner Group is reported to be trying to contact former members who have completed their contracts and returned to civilian life. It is not clear if it's related to the ongoing coup attempt, but it may indicate that Wagner is trying to reactivate its former fighters. Roads blocked from Rostov to Shakidi. Those are the blocked roads again. We've seen those before. The Russian Federal Security Service, FSB, urged Wagner fighters not to follow their leader, Evgeny Prigozhin's orders, also implored fighters to take measures to detain him. In the statement shared by the Russian state, nothing we haven't heard before, but let's listen just in case.
Not to follow their leader, Evgeny Prigozhin, and also to take measures to detain him. That coming as the infamous head of the private Wagner Russian mercenary army is making a stunning claim tonight, accusing Russia's military leadership of killing a, quote, huge amount of his Wagner forces in a strike. That is a claim that Russia denies. We have CNN's Ben Wiedemann on the ground in Ukraine and our Oren Lieberman monitoring at the Pentagon. Ben, I want to go to you first. What can you tell us about this claim from Prigozhin and how Moscow is responding tonight?
Well, actually, Alex, that's just one of
I'm gonna have some good stuff from you for you on Twitter after we get done with Reddit.
many claims made by Prigozhin today that's clearly going to get him in trouble. He started the day with a video interview in which he claimed that Russia had no pretext for invading Ukraine last year. Then he went on to make this claim that the Russian military leadership, without specifying who or what exactly, attacked a Wagner base, killing dozens of his mercenaries. Now, it's not clear where that base is. Some video is circulating in social media of that base. The Russian Defense Ministry has said that this is simply not true. The Russian media, Russian state media, is saying that President Putin is being kept aware of these claims by Wagner and the situation in general, and that, quote, all necessary measures are being taken. Now, Prigozhin went on to say that the evil being carried out by the Russian military leadership must be stopped. Now, many people are taking this as a call for a coup, although Prigozhin came out later and denied it. Now, as a result of this obvious shock of instability hitting Russia, there are reports on social media that military vehicles have been seen outside the State Duma in Moscow, as well as in the city of Rostov, Russian city to the east of here. Now, in reaction to Prigozhin's statements, the FSB, the Russian Federal Security Service, has announced that it has begun criminal proceedings against Prigozhin for organizing an armed insurrection, and this is, according to the statement from the FSB, punishable by 12 to 20 years in prison. Now, the Ukrainians are obviously watching this with intense interest. Now, we did see a tweet from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry simply saying, "We are watching." Alex?
This certainly is an earthquake in Russia's war in Ukraine. Ben Wiedemann, thank you very much. We have new reporting now on the U.S. reaction to this showdown between Russia and...
Apologies for that. I thought it was a shorter video than that. I was about to scroll, and I didn't realize there was more coming. Listen to the rest.
The Wagner mercenary group. Here's our Pentagon correspondent Oren.
Don't normally love listening to
Oren, what have you been
CNN,
told?
but at the same time,
Alex, certainly after
they've got
Ben
more
laid
sources
all
than
out
I
like
do
that, the friction
sometimes.
we're seeing between Prigozhin and the Russian military leadership, it's easy to see why U.S. officials are watching this so closely and are tracking this so closely to see how this develops. The U.S. has watched, and we have watched, friction between the two in the past. Threats coming from Prigozhin aimed either at the Russian military or its leadership, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu or the Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov. But one U.S. official tells us there is a sense here that this goes above and beyond that. This isn't the usual rhetoric. There is something different here. There is something perhaps more escalatory here, and that's one of the reasons the U.S. is watching this so closely to see how this develops over the course of the next several hours and days. It's also worth pointing out that Prigozhin has normally attacked Russian military leadership following some Ukrainian battlefield success or breakthrough or tactical success, and it doesn't appear to be the case here. There doesn't appear to have been some sort of Ukrainian success that precipitated these sudden threats by Prigozhin, and yet we have seen this friction with what appears to be an increasing frequency. In fact, just early last week, Russia's Ministry of Defense said that private contractors, military contractors, would have to sign contracts to try to bring them in line with Russian military leadership and the Russian military itself, and it was Prigozhin who said that Wagner would not be doing that. And so you see that leading into this friction here as the U.S. watches this, Alex.
Yeah, the U.S. and certainly the rest of NATO are going to be watching this very, very closely. Orrin Lieberman at the Pentagon, thanks very much. Let's get more now with our military and Russia experts, Colonel Cedric Leighton and Dmitry Alperovich. Thank you both for joining me. Dmitry, I want to go to you first. You say that Prigozhin massively overreached today. You're comparing this to gang warfare. This is very different than what Prigozhin has said before. It is an escalation. What do you think is behind it?
Well, what Prigozhin has been doing for months now is criticizing, of course, the Ministry of Defense, Minister Shoigu, Chief of General Staff Gerasimov for being incompetent, trying to draw a distinction between his own capable Wagner forces that were able to take Bakhmut by destroying it, and the Russian military that has been suffering loss after loss. But what he couldn't do, and the big mistake that he made today, is to go after the pretext for this war. When he announced that this war was launched under false pretenses, he blamed Shoigu for it, but everyone knows that Putin is the one that ultimately made the decision. And thus, he gave the opening for Shoigu and others that have hated him for a long time in the Kremlin apparatus as well as in the FSB to go after him.
And Colonel Leighton, as Dmitry...
First of all, I'm going to say I disagree with this gentleman. I don't think that Shoigu is overreached. I think that he has endeared himself to the frontline fighters, to the Russian military, and they either fear him or respect him or want to join Wagner because of the fact that they seem to be more well-run, well-supplied, more successful, paid. They stick to their word. If you achieve your 6-month contract, you're out. They don't lie. I'm not saying they're an honorable organization. I'm saying if you're in the current Russian military and you're looking at what Wagner has, what they do, and the sort of swag that they have and the equipment that they have and that sort of thing. And Shoigu is known for, Prigozhin is known for visiting the front lines, visiting people. He gave away a car. It was a PR stunt, but he gave away a car to someone who lost her husband in service of Wagner. Made sure he got it all on tape, that sort of thing. So I think I don't think he's overstepped. I think he's biting off maybe more than he can chew, but at the same time, I think he's going to be pulling in disenfranchised units and soldiers and that sort of thing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the ranks of Wagner swell as opposed to shrink. But we'll see. I'm going to let it play a little bit more. This other gentleman that's supposed to speak, this ex-general, never been a real fan of his analysis. I don't mean to disparage the guy, but he's been wrong since the Russian buildup. At one point, he said the Russians were not going to invade. When the Russians did invade, he was one of the first ones to say that Ukraine was going to fall within 3 days, that sort of thing. He was the one who said that Bakhmut should be surrendered when the Ukrainians fought tooth and nail and bled Wagner dry, slowly but surely backing out of it. He's been wrong so many times, but I'm just curious what he's going to say here, and then I'll probably stop it before we get done.
Noted there, this is a feud that has been brewing for quite some time. Prigozhin's been lobbing those bombs for months. But how do you assess this claim that Prigozhin made that Russian forces, the Russian military, actually targeted and killed many Wagner mercenaries, as Prigozhin claimed?
Yeah, Alex, that's a very inflammatory claim under almost any condition that you can imagine. So, what Prigozhin seems to be doing here is upping the ante. He's basically saying this area has gone way beyond what I've intended. It's gone way beyond what the Russian state should be doing, and the Russian state has killed its own people. So that, is a very significant, I think, departure from the messages that we've seen from Prigozhin before. It's much more virulent, much more really part of a campaign that seems to be designed to topple the Ministry of Defense, at the very least, and possibly Putin himself. But I don't think it will be successful.
So, Colonel, what are you going to be watching for now as the FSB is calling on Wagner fighters to detain Prigozhin?
Well, I'm going to be watching for exactly that, Alex, whether or not the Wagner forces remain loyal to Prigozhin, or whether they switch allegiance to...
I'll stop it right there. They will. I can 100% guarantee that the people that Prigozhin has surrounding him are as loyal as they come. He's provided them with so much wealth. You can't even believe it. The upper echelon of Wagner, they've been around for years. They have received incredible paychecks. They have basically taken over mining operations, oil and gas operations, etc., in Africa, in other countries, in Syria. They basically fly out plane loads of gold and diamonds and precious and rare earth metals and things like that from African nations that they're in. They provide security services to African dictators, etc. And these guys make money hand over fist, and it is layer after layer after layer. They get paid. He sticks to his word. They are the cream of the crop, and they are loyal to a fault. And anybody who tries to turn against anybody in Wagner will get the sledgehammer. They know that. So it's fear, it's loyalty, it's self-aggrandizement, it's money, etc. And Prigozhin, to all the things that makes him a horrible person, he does apparently treat his organization with some sort of respect. And like I said, keeps to his word. And they do die for him. They will die for him. They will not turn on him. So don't hold your breath on that one. Looks like the sun is rising in Russia. Just watching another video feed of a border crossing. Anyways, we'll get through this, and then no, the Ukrainian offensive is not stalled. It says Chris Cappy. Yeah, it is. Task and Purpose. Love this guy. You should watch Task and Purpose. He's really, really good. You should subscribe to his channel. Love him. But no, the Ukrainian offensive is not stalled. They have only just sidebar. They've only committed 3 of the 12 new brigades that were formed with primarily Western equipment, training, all that sort of stuff. They've only committed 3 of those to the probing attacks. There are 9 missing brigades right now. Like, they are missing. No one's seen them. No one's heard of them. No one's seen their trucks, their tanks, their flags, their patches, their nothing. They are in the background. They're waiting. That's a minimum of 45,000 guys with all top-end equipment waiting. So you just wait. General Staff Russia has just given the order to raise the helicopters and open fire on Wagner convoys. Allegedly, some pilots refused. I don't think we're going to get English on this.
Честь имею. Интересные события на просторах нашей Родины. И они очень напоминают смутные времена столетней давности. Бестолковая, коррумпированная и недееспособная военно-политическая верхушка путинской России превращает в фарш сотни тысяч мужчин. Смутные времена.
Let me see if again, praying for war translator, somebody Cyrillic. No. Would be interesting if pilots are refusing. That would tell you something, because they're up in the air, right? Like they wouldn't have the same fear as a checkpoint where a convoy of 20,000 Wagnerites rolls up on you and you either shoot him or get out of the way. But you'd think a helicopter pilot, if this story is true, you'd think a helicopter pilot would have some sort of anonymity and might actually fire. Oh, are you saying there was English captions on that? Oh, maybe I apologize. Thank you. Let me
Бестолковая, коррумпированная
see the full
и
tweet.
недееспособная военно-политическая верхушка путинской
Oh my
России
God, this is such a pain.
превращает в фарш сотни тысяч мужчин. Евгений Пригожин, сам выходец из путинской номенклатуры,
The way they've posted this video. Let's see if I click on this. My God, I apologize. We'll try this one.
Интересные события разворачиваются на просторах
I
нашей
will start it again,
Родины.
and I will read it as well.
Честь
Let's see if it lets me move that. No, I have the
Интересные
honor.
события
Interesting events are
разворачиваются
unfolding
на
in the
просторах
vastness of our
нашей Родины.
motherland.
И они очень напоминают смутные времена
And they're very
столетней
reminiscent of
давности.
the troubled times 100 years
Бестолковая,
ago.
коррумпированная и недееспособная
Clueless, corrupt, and
военно-политическая
incompetent, the
верхушка
political
путинской
elite
России
of Putin's Russia. I think it was it 1919 that the was that the Tsar? Was that the Tsar fell then? bizarre in their family. Anyways, I think there was a revolution in 1919, if I remember. Turns hundreds of thousands of men into mine. Yevgeny Prigozhin himself, a native of Putin's nomenclature, decided it was time for him to play his own hand. And his orchestra is always ready. We know that he has many supporters among the population of Russia and in the ranks of power structures. We know that Prigozhin has a great political ambitions, and he is fed up with fattened generals in their offices who don't know how to fight for real. We know that if he starts an armed rebellion, it is highly likely to be successful. But we also remember how he and his accomplishments cut off the heads of people, killed their people with a hammer. By the way, the person that's speaking here in this emblem that we're looking at, I didn't say that. This is the Freedom of Russia Legion. I always screw the two of them up. It's the two groups of Russians that have basically crossed the border in Belgorod region a couple of times. One of them is very, very nationalistic with some white supremacists and that sort of thing in it. The other one was actually part of the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. They are Russian citizens fighting for Ukraine on behalf of Ukraine, and have crossed into Russia a couple times. So when you see this shield with the fist, if you want to consider one of them as a dodgy group and one of them as a good group, this is the good group. These are the guys who are not nationalistic, racist, supremacist, anything like that. These are the ones that the Ukrainians basically trusted enough to bring them into the Foreign Legion. So this is him speaking. Cynically filming it on video and mocking the unarmed. You should not attribute to him military honor and valor, which are non-existent. Prigozhin calls for a fight against generals, traitors, and for war to the bitter end. But this war is not in the interest of the people of Russia. The goal is Prigozhin's battle with Shoigu, Gerasimov, and the generals. It's just a battle for the feeder and the opportunity to continue to destroy and plunder the peoples of Russia. Modern Russia. It's a bunch of jackals tearing each other apart, and also the whole country with them. We are the free citizens of Russia. Let's not leave our people alone with uncertainty and fear. We will put an end to the war and free our homeland from the rotten system, whether it be Putin's or Prigozhin's. Our comrades, get ready. Russia will be free. Wow. It is about to go down. Just checking the chat. Thank you for letting me know the English captions were there. Yeah, no, I agree. Be mindful. We should not be happy. It's not like Prigozhin's riding in on a white horse and he's going to save the day or whatever. You got to understand this man was discovered by Putin. He's an ex-criminal. He employs a criminal international terroristic organization, and he may be, air quote, a man of the people and appreciated by the blue collar, by the troops, by that sort of thing. And he may have some loyal people inside the Ministry of Defense because he actually speaks his mind. He's not encumbered by the FSB to basically be quiet. But at the same time, he's a horrible individual. And if he was ever in charge in Russia, if things could get worse than Putin, they would get worse because he would probably be less of a spy and more of an attacker, more of a brute force kind of guy. Putin basically plays politics, it poisons people and divides and conquers and that sort of stuff, and he's not a military strategist. He's not a military man at all. Prigozhin, again, no military experience whatsoever, but I think he would be more aggressive, more willing to push extremes and challenge people, such as maybe NATO, such as neighbors that are not a member of NATO, that sort of thing. Bust out some bad weapons, blow up some more dams, that sort of thing. I think that Prigozhin would be less encumbered and would do worse if it's possible. Anyways, my opinion. Rostov Highway, I think we're almost caught up. Now that is a lot of trucks. I'm just counting. Possibly 20 plus guys in every one of those. Maybe equipment too. Looks like a checkpoint. That's a highway and it's basically shut down. Okay, we'll give it one more refresh and see if there's anything good there, and then I'll flip over to Twitter. I'll walk you guys through a few things, interesting things that I've seen on there. So Krasnodar. Man, just when you think all the Ukrainians destroyed all the trucks, Russia's always got more.
Проспект Буденновский, 2 часа 16 минут. Есть сцепление, но в целом все нормально. В центре Ростова все спокойно, несмотря на заявление Пригожина,
I don't know if that's
что на окраине
police station.
спокойно. Здесь
Looks like a police station, possibly. And looks like they've got some roadblocks. Rostov police roadblocks. Wow, they're just. Now, if the Wagnerites are coming through Rostov, and you've got a couple of cop cars, they're not stopping them. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now. Russian civilians encounter a roadblock in Rostov-on-Don. Sorry, these might be boring to you guys, I don't know, but I just, when I see troops on the street, it just further and further and further validates that this is legitimate. I mean, they're busting out fuel trucks, construction trucks, anything they can to use to roadblock. I mean, those are not military. Those look like utility trucks to me. So maybe they don't have that many. Wagner convoy on the way to ? All right. So this is somebody looking out a bus window. This is a bus window parked on the other side of the highway, watching the Wagnerites go by. And yeah, it looks like a pretty good sized convoy. Assuming they're Wagner. You gotta question everything, right? But there's a lot of them. If those are all members of the convoy. I would not want to be the cops sitting at the roadblock when those guys pull in. Prigozhin being disappeared from Russian internet. Prigozhin is in the process of being disappeared from the Russian internet. There are reports that Russian search engine Yandex has also begun filtering out results about him, like his Wikipedia page. Perfect. That's what the oligarchs do. AFU's advancements in Vermilka, Salient, Rivnopolis. Okay, so that's the Ukrainians advancing, and surprisingly, we're not going to cover that.
Breaking news: armored vehicles on the streets of Moscow.
Yeah, we've seen that. We've seen that convoy. Watch that and watch that. Okay, so let's pull Twitter over here. I did scroll down to a couple interesting spots that I wanted to show you. There are some really good resources that I follow on Twitter. Sadly, some of them are Russian, and it's painful to listen to them. But so here we go. Antov Gerashenko, another guy. If you want to follow, I kind of compile all this stuff, so you don't have to. But if you're ever curious about like he's pro-Ukrainian, but at the same time he's very unbiased. He just basically spits facts and he validates a lot of stuff that he puts out. So I've never been steered wrong by the information. And if he thinks something's a rumor, unverified, he'll tell you. So sources of the VCHK OGPU report that 2 hours ago, security service of Wagner PMC called its former mercenaries. Those who participated in combat for more than one contract were called with the words that the company needs them now as never before. They called the badge number and call sign, first and last names, and place of deployment. It is in such an uncomplicated manner. They brought out the reaction to confirm readiness. We keep quiet. They just confirm that we were in touch, and that was it. No instructions were received. Someone must have answered that he is ready for everything. We don't know what happened to them next. Calls also came to ex-prisoners who returned from the special military operation. The rhetoric of Wagner's security services communicating with them was limited exclusively to checking personal data and finding out their location. So they're basically reaching out and doing kind of like a roll call. Like, hey, you completed at least a contract with us. This is your name. This is your badge number. Are you ready? And if we call on you, they say yes. Then they call the prisoners. Hey, you got out of your special military operation. We gave you the opportunity to go home, and now we'd like you to come and join us again if we need you, right? So they're doing a pulse check. It's interesting. Surovikin is armed with a PP-2000 submachine gun. Interesting. Military police convoy. We've seen that one heading towards Moscow. Small mistake on my part. Those are 5350s. What? Additional angle outside of the Cathedral of Christ the Savior, closer to the Kremlin. So again, the trucks everywhere, and you know they're full of troops. Formation of KAMAZ, 4350s. So I was right, they were KAMAZ, and then he said they were 5350s. I'm not that good. I can tell you a KAMAZ or a Ural, but that's it. So good for him. That's OSINT technical. Open source intelligence technical is what that stands for. In case you're ever curious, St. Javelin. Let me see. Okay, I'm off to bed. Wish everyone except Russians a good night. Okay, maybe I won't be able to fall asleep because there's too much excitement running in my body. Ukrainian. Okay, sorry, I follow this. If you're ever curious about where there's air raid sirens, things like that, follow the Ukrainian siren alerts. Again, it's just another source that I follow. Let me know what's going on. Let me just check the chat over here. So that's a really good question. So the question is, considering the rumors of Prigozhin allegedly offering to give up Russian positions, what are the chances he coordinated with or warned Ukraine? So 100% I believe the reports and the rumors, because a couple came from the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, that Prigozhin in the past did either negotiate or tried to negotiate with the Ukrainians. If you remember the spat that he got in at one point with the Kadyrovites, and then the Kadyrovites kind of basically called him out. First of all, they offered to work with him. Then they called him out and said, don't worry, Moscow, we'll go in and save the day. We're as good or better than than Wagner anyways. And then I can't remember which happened first, but Wagner basically came out and said, hey, do you remember the first Chechen war? Do you remember the second Chechen war? That was us. We were there. We'd be happy to meet you again. And then the Kadyrovites, because a lot of Chechens died in that war, as well as Russians. But anyways, they basically said, hey, remember we came into your city and killed your friends and family, and then we leveled your city, Grozny. And then the Kadyrovites, I think, came back with a little more chirps or something like that. And then, lo and behold, somebody gave up the position of Kadyrov's second in command, his best friend, the guy he'd known forever, gave up where the guy was basically living in southern Ukraine. And a Storm Shadow missile hit the location and killed 100 Chechens. Kadyrovites, I don't call them Chechens. They killed 100 Chechen Kadyrovites, including that gentleman, and wounded 100 more. And a Russian commander who was captured by Wagner said that Wagner gave up the position of those Chechen soldiers, Kadyrovite soldiers, to the Ukrainians. So that's the second time that Prigozhin's been accused of working with Ukrainians. So did he, but in this case, that's a good question. Did he work with or warn the Ukrainians that this was going to happen? I don't think so, because I think this has to be a nationalistic play for power, and to cut off he wants to take out the bad generals and that sort of stuff. If he is ever seen as, in this case, working with the Ukrainians and warning the Ukrainians that he's about to perform a coup in Russia, and word got around to the common people that he's so fond of endearing himself to, that he actually worked with the enemy or warned the enemy, gave them a heads up so they could gain some ground or whatever, that wouldn't play well for him, I don't believe, with his troops or with the general public. And in addition, if the other statement that he made can be believed, that once he takes care of business in Russia, the real Ukrainian war is going to start, I don't think he'd want to give Ukraine the heads up so they could take Bakhmut in his absence or something like that. That's my opinion. I could totally be wrong. It doesn't seem as in his nature for something like this, where it's all about PR. He needs to draw in Russian troops. He needs the Russian civilians to support him. He needs people to turn on the Russian MoD. And if word ever got out, and trust me, the Ukrainians would say it in a heartbeat, if word ever got out that he said, hey, Ukraine, do me a favor, move your troops out of this area or move into this area, attack this place, whatever, because I'm about to do X, Y, or Z, they would let that word out, and that would make him look bad. And then you might see some of his loyal Wagnerites actually turn on him. That's my personal opinion. But it's a great question. Russia is going after Wagner and all other PMCs by tomorrow, no matter what. Russia will be down 25 to 50,000 troops they can't lose, and the people will know the truth about the lies of this war. It's all open on Telegram now. So, and again, Trentalenko, another great source. I'm not saying the person he's quoting here, this David D, is a great source or not. I have no idea. But what I can say is that over the last month and a bit, I believe it's been, Russia has been forcing all of the private military contractors to sign on contracts. Most of them are run by like Gazprom or by Shoigu or by whatever. So most of them are like a dotted line arm's length from the MoD anyways, and they're loyal. But they've been basically getting them all to sign on to the Ministry of Defense. So I don't know if I completely agree with this, other than the fact that the 25,000 is potentially the Wagner population, and they've definitely lost them as a fighting force, and in fact they might be fighting against them. But as far as the other PMCs, to my knowledge, they've all signed on or are working directly for people in the Ministry of Defense in the oil and gas industry. So I don't think that that's a worry about losing them. I could be wrong. Again, happy to be wrong, or happy to debate that or be proven wrong. But I think you're dealing with Wagner versus Russian MoD, and I think that they're going to start pulling in some units. And I think the second that they do pull in some units, Prigozhin is going to put that on the front page. Most likely the same convoy spotted moving towards the Russian MoD building. Yeah, that's the same convoy. We've seen that one. That's even the same camera angle I believe we saw before. There's a police van usually used for arrests outside the Federal Security Service in Moscow. Am I missing the van? Oh, that right there. So that van is used to make arrests, and in fact, I think if that's the one I remember somebody pulling out a Ukrainian flag in front of a monument or something in Moscow, and a bunch of police officers hopped out and they grabbed a girl and they brought her inside, and she was screaming. I think that is the van. Anyways, interesting. Little tidbits, little, street reporters. And again, if you haven't, please like, subscribe, comment. Tell me where you're coming in from, where you're signed in from. Don't dox yourself, give your address, but like city, state, province, country, that sort of thing. Wow, Rybar reporting that the whole LPR, DPR is getting shelled. So Rybar is reporting that Ukrainians are hitting positions in the Luhansk People's Republic and the Donetsk People's Republic. And again, that's from Rybar. I would trust that. There's no way that benefits anybody on the Russian side of things. And Rybar is one of the first ones. War Gonzo used to be, but he's not around anymore. But Rybar was one of the first ones to basically say, we've lost this village, we're shelling this village on our way out, that sort of thing. Saw this one earlier today. And again, this is total rumor. The father of a friend. As soon as it says father of a friend, just whatever, take it with a massive grain of salt. The father of a friend works in Wagner PMC. Today, I was called to an urgent meeting. Came back late and didn't explain anything. He only told me to pack my things and to run to the grocery store for 2 weeks. Now we are going somewhere far away from the city. I don't know what's going on, but I think it started. Again, could be real. Jack Ryan, great call sign. What Yanukovych doing? Prigozhin announced they have crossed the border and are entering Rostov. Another possible checkpoint roadblock popped up in the Rostov proper. So they're basically checkpoints and roadblocks on both ends. There's red over there, which means the traffic is slowed. I think that's a checkpoint there and there. So interesting. I guess they basically decided that Rostov is for sure where Wagner is going, and they want to be there to stop them. Multiple reported traffic jams and road closures on the M4 north of Rostov. Yeah, we've seen that several times. Even more closures popping up at the N4. Highways are being blocked at the entrances of Rostov-on-Don. Come on. Taganrog Road. I'm so bilingual, it's unbelievable. Donetsk People's Republic and Don Highway from the Moscow western entrance to Roscow, Novo-Cherkassk Highway, as well as roads towards Kamiansk and near the city of Shakitki are blocked. According to witnesses, vehicles are inspected at the checkpoints. So they're basically looking for collaborators, weapons, that sort of thing. Different insides appear online. Prigozhin might be killed tonight. What? Different inside. Oh. So Swan Lake is getting posted in a lot of places. That's good. That's good. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. We have crossed the state border in all places. We are entering Rostov. Conscripts were thrown against us and are withdrawing. We keep moving. We are going all the way. Prigozhin. It seems like in the direction of Klishchivka, near Bakhmut, there is some unreal movement. Russian positions are being shelled from the rear. In Klishchivka. Okay, this is... It seems like in the direction of Klishchivka, near Bakhmut, there is some unreal movement. Russian positions are being shelled from the rear. So that means that they're basically being shelled from territories that they occupy. One second. I will show you where this is. Okay, let me bring this map over so you can all see it. Okay, so that's Klishchivka, right? And there's Bakhmut, right? And so there's the Russian border, and there is the border between the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, right? And so they are basically saying that troops that are located in this area are being shelled somewhere in this area. And I will say, and again, pure speculation, if all of Wagner pulled out, great. If they didn't, if Prigozhin left some people behind to basically exact some revenge on the lost camps, there were rumors that because this is Bakhmut right here, and this is where the Wagnerites were fighting for so long, that the Wagner camps that they retreated to were somewhere outside of Luhansk. So I'm just saying, is there a chance that the Wagner troops said, hey, you guys maybe are the ones responsible for shelling our guys, or maybe we just know where you are, we've got you geolocated based on where we know you're staying, and that sort of thing? Did they fire off some shells as a kind of parting gift? I don't know. But that is fascinating and interesting for sure, to claim that they're being shelled from behind. Today, a missile strike was launched against us, then helicopters, then artillery. The command to destroy PMC Wagner was given by the chief of staff after a meeting with Shoigu, Prigozhin. So it wasn't just missiles, basically. He's saying there was a missile strike, helicopters, then artillery. So they were basically getting hammered. Prigozhin says that Wagner forces are advancing on Rostov, suggests that they were not blocked by Russian forces. This is a transcript of his audio statement from Prigozhin. The current situation: today we were dealt a missile strike. After this missile strike, helicopters did their work, then artillery. The orders were coming from the head of the general staff to destroy the PMC Wagner. After a meeting with the Minister of Defense Shoigu, where they made this decision to destroy the rebellious units who were ready to defend the motherland, but not their asses. As of now, we've crossed the state borders in all areas. Border guards came towards us and hugged our fighters. Now we're entering Rostov. Units of the Ministry of Defense, in fact, the conscripts who were thrown to block our path, moved away. We do not fight with children. We do not kill children. Shoigu is killing children by throwing untrained soldiers, conscripts included, into the war, as did he. He set up 18-year-old lads against us. They're like children and grandchildren to us. Therefore, these lads will live to return to their mothers. Everything he says is brilliant to turn people against each other. We only fight with professionals, but if someone stands in our path, we will destroy everything in our way. We lend a hand to anyone. No need to spit in this hand. We are moving forward, going to the end. Regarding claims, regarding the arrests, this motherhood, this justice, this honor, this conscience is what we have. But when you make these claims, you haven't got these feelings. These feelings are destroyed. Thus, you cannot understand anything but betrayal. A little choppy translation, but there you go. Amazing. Rostov. Tired. I think it's Dmitry. This is Dmitry War translated. I think he's just saying he's tired. New audio statement by Prigozhin stating Wagner crossed state borders in all areas and is now entering Rostov, promising to destroy anything. Yeah, that's what I just read you the transcript of. Ukraine sound alert. Air raids higher in Ukraine. Oh, here we go. This Swan Lake is being played again and again and again. Oh my God. People are so good. They're so fast. Better check in on the St. Petersburg Naval Yard. Oh, memes. I just love them. I truly do. Yeah, be mindful, you're right. Like, you gotta, I've been looking at this stuff for so long. Oh my God. Come on. It's like Riverdance. Look at the people in the back. There's some things you can't laugh at, obviously, but there's some that you've got to find some humor in it or else you go crazy. When will then be now? Soon. Oh my God, it's such a great movie. Spaceballs. That's not a solution. Russia must end. Can we get some hackers to play this on every TV channel? That would be incredible. Prigozhin, channel calls on Rosvardia to join him or things will go badly. That's the name of the town, Rosvardia. Oh yeah, I gotta back out of this tweet. I forgot that I'm in an actual tweet, not on the... Chernihiv Oblast is a threat to Shahid drones. That's good. An explosion rang out in Kursk, Russia. Again, this is probably Ukrainian. I know they've hit it before. I don't think... It was a deer? A dog? What was that? Oh, that's a dog. Interesting. That just sounds like a one and done. Sounded like a HIMARS possibly. Air raid sirens in the Chernihiv Oblast. Rostov in this statement is most likely the Oblast, not the city itself yet, I think. Oh, basically saying that Prigozhin's translation means that he's entered Rostov Oblast, not Rostov-on-Don. He talks about crossing the Russian border in the past tense, Rostov Oblast at that point. Then he says, and now we're entering Rostov. So yeah, maybe the edge of the city. Fairly certain he's referring to the city, even though I am personally skeptical of the claim. Yeah. And again, Prigozhin, he lies, but he tells a lot of truth too. So you got to pick it out. He could say that he's in Rostov-on-Don when he's not, to basically scare people. Prigozhin just announced the Wagner units are now entering Rostov. Anyone gets in the way. We've read that one. Ukraine siren alert. I don't even know anymore. List of losses between Russia and Russia. Probably what? General Surovikin told Wagners to be loyal to Russia. Wagner responded, the commanders of the Wagner PMC remain loyal to the most promising politician and will carry out any of his orders. Neither the FSB nor Surovikin will be able to stop what has begun. All the generals who, with trembling hands, appealed to the musicians to stop have actually signed their own verdict. There will be a tribunal. Surovikin will still answer. We read that one before, for giving up on Kherson. Okay. We went from Kiev. I love these ones. I don't even know what that says yet. We went from Kiev in 3 days to Bakhmut in 3 days to retaking Belgorod in 3 days to Russia is going to defeat Wagner in 3 days. It's hilarious. Yeah, I'm going to retweet that one. That is hilarious. Tweets on the Russian Civil War in progress are killing me. This just showed up in Gherkin's Telegram page. If you get it, you get it. Swan Lake. Swan Lake was broadcast on every TV station in Russia to cover the 1991 battle in front of the Russian White House. Posting this is an act of treason. Convoys of military police have been observed heading towards the headquarters building for the Russian Ministry of Defense in the capital city of Moscow, with additional armed soldiers seen deployed on the Riverwalk near the complex. Just your average 750,000 Russian Telegram channel. There is no panic. Lord save Russia. Another airstrike in Kyiv. Air raid in Kyiv. If Prigozhin is truly doing a coup, he will try to take control of Rostov-on-Don. Controlling Rostov equals cutting off the main supply line to the entire Russian army in Ukraine. equals the army is then Prigozhin's hostage. When fighting erupts in Rostov, the Russian Civil War has begun. It is true. It is a key logistical hub for the entire Russian military war effort. Prigozhin's not stupid. He understands logistics. He understands where his stuff used to come from and stopped coming from. And that is the city. That is the reason why he wants to take that city. To sum it up, Prigozhin recorded a new audio message and declared that he's entering Rostov-on-Don. It's known that Rostov is where the staff of the Russian troops participating in the special military operation in Ukraine are located. Meanwhile, air raid in Kyiv. Prigozhin has announced he's concentrating his forces in Rostov-on-Don, the logistical hub for the Russian army in Ukraine, and the rail hub for the Chechens need to go through to get home. The cheese doth get binding in Russia. The cheese doth get binding in Russia. The FSB says they allowed Wagner to cross the border. What? The outlet claims that in order not to oppose the movement of Wagner PMC across the border came from the FSB. There was no resistance to the penetration of the Wagner fighters. They were quietly let through. Whoa, that's from War Monitor. Despite all the news surrounding Prigozhin, there are alarms in almost all regions of Ukraine. Cruise missiles have already entered the Ukrainian airspace, of course. Prigozhin audio statement at 0031 Eastern Standard Time stating that Gerasimov gave an order for planes to bomb moving Wagner columns. It's unclear if these columns exist in reality. Just now, head of the general staff gave an order to bring aircraft into the air and start shooting the convoys. They're walking among the civilian cars in between the trucks. They don't care who they kill. He says pilots refuse to obey that order. So they'll fire on Ukrainian citizens, but when it comes to firing on Wagner standing in the middle of Russian citizens, some of which might be related to those pilots, they finally refused an order. Putin receives reports 24/7 about the measure taken related to the attempt of an armed rebellion. Peskov is the spokesman. Air raid alerts all over Ukraine. How the Russians can fire at Ukrainian civilians while there's an armed rebellion going on is beyond me. Again, if you're in the chat, say hi, make a comment, favorite color, thoughts on the war, thoughts on the rebellion. Love to hear from you. Probably going to wrap it up soon. I'm trying to get to the top of this before, but more and more new stuff keeps coming up. Missiles are coming from the south. This is an accurate analysis. At this point, it is absolutely irrelevant if Prigozhin's coup will succeed or not. Literally everybody in Russia and outside will know that know after this night that the war in Ukraine is lost. The morale of the Russian army, which was already low, will hit rock bottom, and the mood in Russia altogether will be Armageddon-like. What started as an attempt to overthrow the Ukrainian government and annex all of Ukraine has eventually backfired on a monumental scale. The last chapter of this Russian-made tragedy is open, and I doubt that it will be a long chapter. Well said. Absolutely agree. Gave the order to attack Wagner. That's the one we've got the TikTok on already. Sources of Russian Astra Telegram channel FSB gave the order not to resist Wagner mercenaries. That's what we heard already. Prigozhin Shoigu has just cowardly fled Rostov. At 2100, he fled cowardly in order to avoid explaining why he raised helicopters to destroy our guys, why he launched missile strikes. The creature will be stopped. So he's basically claiming that Shoigu was in Rostov, or Rostov-on-Don, the city, and fled. I don't think this is... No, this is... That is not related to the coup. I've seen that one already. The Russian Civil War is on like Donkey Kong. It is going to be 24/7 food delivery in the Pentagon Situation Room until further notice. That is a good point. We are about to see a civil war in a nuclear state. Sadly, this really was on my bingo card for the near future. I do love Trentelenko. Do I know if there's a way to watch CNN live? You gotta sometimes. So if you go to CNN, first of all, CNN.com, or sometimes once in a while for large events. I'm not saying this is it, but you can check. Let's do it. Why don't I check for you? Bring it on over. Sometimes they will throw up a live stream and allow you to watch as if you had cable. They'll do it for like let me see. Usually there's a live button. So if you click on live TV, I think it lets you watch it. Let's try it. I think it lets you watch it live for a couple of minutes. No. Yeah, that one you need a provider. That doesn't work. So if they're covering a live event and they'll stream it online and you don't need cable and that sort of thing, usually you see a live button up here somewhere. You could just click on it, or it's in the story. We'll see live updates. And live updates usually just means, oh wait, let's see. No, I'm trying to help you leave my stream so you can go watch CNN. It's heartbreaking, but hey. I don't know if this is live.
These are the chaotic scenes posted by the Wagner mercenary group. What they see appears to be ministry of tricking the country into an and
citizens to our bosom and not need.
So the other thing that you can do is you can go onto YouTube, for example, and you can search for like CNN Live, something like that. And sometimes somebody will be holding a camera on their TV, or sometimes they actually get away with broadcasting live sporting events, live news channels like CNN, etc. Yeah. So if you don't have a VPN, your only other bet is, like I said, is to find an online streamer. And usually they do it for sporting events, but sometimes, like I said, I've come across people who've like had a HD camera pointed at their TV and they change the speed, or they change the they put something in the picture or whatever so that YouTube doesn't pick up and tell CNN that they're being live broadcasted. Sometimes they'll distort the picture or whatever, or they'll put an image in it and partially overlay it so it breaks up YouTube's ability to see that it's an illegal live stream. But you got to hunt and pack. It's nothing guaranteed. That's all I have on that. Dear YouTube, I hope you don't get mad at me for helping out on that question. Okay, Russian television is reporting that a special emergency broadcast about the Prigozhin armed rebellion, FSB, asks Wagner soldiers, I gotta say that right, soldiers not to take part. Is this the broadcast? Did it happen? Let's see. I hate clicking on links for Russian state TV. No, I'm not doing that. It's too late. I already clicked on it, but that's a direct link to Russian TV, and it wouldn't be in English anyway. So, Ukrainian troops on the offensive along the whole contact line. Ukrainians are trying to seize the moment. Well done. If those, wow. If those are all fresh and accurate, map indications of contact, explosions, that sort of stuff. That's brilliant. And the Ukrainians, they'd be stupid not to. Why wouldn't you take advantage of a situation like this? the Russian MoD is looking inwards, and they're evacuating, and Rostov-on-Don might be lost, and Wagner is evacuated. You basically lost 25,000 elite fighters out of Ukraine, occupied territory, and they are not going to be watching anybody's back for the near future. And Russia is basically, gathering troops to maybe potentially fight with Wagner. Their attention's elsewhere. Pounce, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, no problem. I tried for the live coverage. The best you can do, yeah, that's the best you can do, is find a screen scraper on YouTube. Yeah, we saw that. Prigozhin said the Wagner forces are going to storm Moscow with 25,000 mercenaries and punish the Ministry of Defense. We suspect that the generals and other forces are choosing sides, and our bets are not on the Ministry of Defense. Mine neither. The Air Force also warned that the threat of drone and missile attacks via their official Telegram channel. I don't know that Wagner's big use of drones. They've had a big use of drones per se. I'm not saying they don't, but I know I've seen some. Obviously, everybody uses them, but I don't know if it's been their primary point of contact, conflict with the. Like I don't recall ever seeing Wagner using kamikaze drones in a great number, or even drone dropped bombs in a great number from Wagner. And not to say that they don't, maybe they just didn't film themselves doing it that much, but it seemed to be a lot more coming from the standard Russian military, but who knows. Prigozhin is not a stupid man. He's going to pull out all the stops. If he truly is trying to take Rostov-on-Don and possibly move on to Moscow, gather troops and stuff, he'll use every tool in his arsenal, guaranteed. And this border crossing that I've been watching, I'll just pull it over. Some of you might know. This was a link in another video. Man, I don't know where this is, but it is dead. Like, it's just been emergency vehicles, and the odd looks like civilian car, but there seems to be nobody on the roads. Air raids going off in several Ukrainian oblasts with increasing levels of 3 a.m. traffic around the Novoshatinskaya Granitsa border crossing. Nailed that. I don't know where that is. No, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We know that border crossings are going to be crazy. We know that getting out of cities is going to be crazy. There are police checks, roadblocks everywhere, and they're just going to keep on springing up. They're going to basically shut down the whole between Moscow and Ukraine. You can guarantee that nobody's moving that's not observed and stopped, potentially, if they can stop them. The M4 is looking like, look at that. It is just completely jammed. Nobody's going down the M4. 2 weeks ago, Shoigu told Prigozhin that Wagner had to pledge loyalty to the Ministry of Defense by July 1st. Prigozhin told him to go F himself and be prepared to battle against the MoD. Shoigu responded with a missile attack on Wagner that killed many hundreds, ? Game on. To be clear, so far there's no evidence of anything happening beyond Prigozhin's voice, memos, and various official statements. I don't know. Wheeling the generals out or mentioning Prigozhin on TV is highly unusual. That suggests it's serious, whatever it is, but we have seen nothing. It's true, we have not seen Wagner on Russian conflict on tape. We haven't seen them blow past the checkpoint. We haven't seen evidence of Russians refusing to follow orders or joining him, and that's going to be very difficult to both see and to validate. Remember, Volkansky. My God, Russia. Social media Russian social media started blocking the posts with Prigozhin's statements after the Russian Prosecutor General Office issued a demand for that. Media report. Peskov. Putin has given orders from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Federal Security Service, Russian Guard services due to the attempted armed rebellion. VCHK OGPU source commented on the situation in Moscow's Federal Security Service and main directorate of the ministry. Everyone is up, arrived urgently. Now all the offices are like one big after party. 80% of the staff reek of alcohol. Some of them can hardly stand on their feet. Typical day in Moscow. They can't be armed or sent anywhere. Friday night's the perfect time to start something like this. Everybody's standing around waiting for something. No introductions. A couple hours or more and there'll be conflicts among them when they start to sober up. 100%. 100%. Statement from Prigozhin has been blocked on the Russian social media platform. Ta-da! Looks like almost like Elon Musk has taken over. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying. Oh, sorry. What is this? Am I saying it would be funny if Ukraine gave Wagner air support by bombing the checkpoints with drones? Yes, I am. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying it would be funny. Oh, Andrew, he's fantastic. According to multiple reports, Shoigu ordered a missile attack on or near units of Wagner, killing hundreds. A huge number of fighters were killed. Yeah, we read that. So far, there are no confirmations, video, or photos of Prigozhin's previous statements that Wagner mercenaries have allegedly entered Rostov-on-Don. That is true. Please, please, please be aware. There's no confirmation that they've entered Rostov-on-Don yet. America is the indispensable support of Ukraine's war, yet it is now the most reluctant of the allies to admit the country to NATO. Oh, this is talking about the NATO admission. They'll get in quick. Law enforcement units in the Ministry of Internal Affairs have reportedly begun to set up checkpoints and throughout check any vehicle, specifically trucks, that enter the Russian capital. Yeah, that's all we're seeing is checkpoints, police vehicles, empty streets. Alexander Dugin, remember his daughter was blown up in his car. Just as we face the true enemy, the satanic West, and its demon-possessed henchmen, he sows confusion within ourselves, and so goes from century to century. When will we wise up? Anyway, I'm done for tonight. Good night. That was Dugin. My boy's nuts. Air defense working in Kyiv. Local Telegram channel from Rostov published a video exit from Rostov in Aksai direction. There's those orange utility trucks. Doesn't tell us anything. The world's first civil war fought exclusively via voice memos. Oh my god, that's so good. Okay, I might be wrapping it up soon. I'm going to skate. It appears there is blood being shed between Wagner PMC and Russian military forces controlled by Shoigu. Combat footage between Wagner PMC and Kremlin forces. Okay, let's see. Take it with a grain of salt. We might have our first... I literally just said we don't have this. Wow. Okay. And I can hear some... Okay, you can... I'm going to rewind it again. Ignore the close. You hear some AK-74s probably going off after those larger weapons were fired. If you can listen in the background, it sounds like rain. It's actually small arms fire. Can you hear that right there? There's constant firing in the background. Okay, and then it just stops. But anyways. The last time I had this much interest in a world affair was during the last American presidential election between Biden and Trump. Stayed up many nights. Yeah, yeah. I'm a political junkie for sure. I dive deep into various elections, debates, all that sort of stuff, where the parties stand, and just try to pick winners. So I do find it very fascinating. But this is on a new level. This is, to me, I'm a bit of a student of history, I would say, and specifically conflicts. And I would say that this is the most watched, broadcast, shared war in history, obviously by a mile, because of the fact that everybody on every front line, every vehicle, everything has a GoPro, has a camera, has a phone, has night vision, has thermals, drones, satellite, etc. So like literally, I saw a battle for a trench system called Cyclops. I must have seen 20 angles, and it was a 5-part series, and it's fascinating, right? And it's horrible because people are dying, but it's fascinating. And if you look at this war is like a compilation of like 3 or 4 different wars, including ones we haven't fought yet. I mean, you can go all the way back to World War I and look at some trench battles, hand-to-hand battles in trenches, throwing grenades, charging into the next trench, getting mowed down by machine guns, barbed wire, etc. And you can see that. Then you can see World War II, right, with the first use of aerial vehicles and heavy artillery. World War I, there was gas, and they've actually used tear gas and that sort of stuff as well. And then World War II, you can use like blitzkrieg and heavy artillery and combined arms for being used, and you've got that here. And then you can look at like some of the sci-fi wars that you see on like Terminator or whatever, and you're like drone on drone battles, drone on human battles, AI being used, that sort of thing. And that's also a part of this. And then there's all the geopolitics involved. Not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but it's like, it's not just black and white. Yes, it's NATO in the West versus Russia. Russia's got some tentative friends, right? Iran, we only sold them drones once, right? You sold them 3,500 drones once, and like, so Iran's supplying them. China's like, we're not going to give them tanks, but we'll give them wash machines, and they'll get the computer chips that way, whatever, right? And then you look at NATO, and you're like, well, NATO's lock, stock, in step with each other in Ukraine, right? No, you've got Turkey and you've got Hungary. Orban in Hungary loves Trump, or loves Putin. And then you've got Turkey, which is basically straddling the fence. They've got the Bayraktar company, which is partially owned by Ukraine and partially owned by the Turkish president's son-in-law, I believe, or son. They're allowing Ukraine to do certain things, but they're also allowing Russia to do certain things. And they bought S-400s from Russia, but they want F-16s from the U.S. And they let Finland into NATO, but they're not going to let Sweden into NATO unless they get their F-16s. And they're part of NATO, right? Crazy. You can peel back the layers, right? Like Pakistan used to be, used to be what you'd think maybe was a bit of an ally of the U.S., and then it wasn't an ally of the West or whatever. And then India was supposed to be an ally. Well, then India got into bed with Russia as part of BRICS, and then Pakistan and India have always been fighting with each other. And then Pakistan steps up and says, hey, we've got a whole bunch of old Russian weapons. We'll sell them to Ukraine. We're not going to sell them to Russia. And then India and MoD basically are buying Russian oil on the cheap. So they love that. But at the same time, they don't love Russia's politics. And layer after layer after layer. So you can dive as deep as you want into this conflict and the geopolitical aspects of it, as well as military, whatever you like about history, war, politics, allies, axes, etc. It's got it. Couple more. We'll see what we got here. Russian channels are sharing a video allegedly showing Wagner column in Rostov. Can't tell the location from the footage in the original source, but the lead vehicle looks like a Chechen MRAP, which is mine resistant ambush protected vehicle used by Wagner. The Chechens got these. It's actually Chinese. The Chechens bought them from China. That's another way they got around it. Okay, so there's the convoy we saw go by on the highway. That is potatoey and a horrible video or horrible picture. Come on, you really think I'm gonna be able to? They're basically stating that vehicle is that okay. Maybe. Again, Rob Lee's really good. He's really good. I'm not making fun of Rob Lee. I'm just saying I can't tell that. But if he's picking that out, and I will say when I back it up, when I get further back, the angle of the sidewall of that vehicle kind of could match the angle of that, but it's so tough to tell. The Chechen or Shilka Ural is a Wagner modification of the Ural 4320 truck. They have used it in Kar in Libya. I'm not aware of any other Russian force that uses it. Russian private military company convoy reportedly arrived in Kar. Where's Kar? Kar? No idea. Anyways, they're just trying to locate. A Russian cruise missile has reportedly struck, oh my God, a 24-story residential building in Ukraine. Look at that. Oh my God. Civilian targets. I can't. Look at it, blew out that whole floor down onto these cars. So basically the Russians said, oh my God, we're under attack by our own people. Let's fire every missile and keep the Ukrainians' heads down or keep them scrambling while we're in trouble. Kharkiv reported attacks on Kharkiv that according to the preliminary information, Russia launched 3 missiles into the center of Kharkiv. Russian mill blogger posted that. I believe that's the same combat. That's the same one, right? Yeah. I don't know my weapon's firing enough. I thought that first one might have been a 20mm cannon, but I don't know. It didn't sound quite loud enough, so I might be wrong. It did have tracers. Could be anything, though. Additional footage of low-flying helicopter in the general area. Why do I want to look at this? What the hell? Is that a man pad? I have no idea what that was. I think someone just shot at the helicopter. That's a good point, too. Can you imagine how much friendly fire there could be? Accidental friendly fire, not just Wagner on Russian troops, but basically, like, you see a drone, you see a helicopter, you see a vehicle coming down the road, you're not expecting one, whatever, and you end up firing out of panic. It's happened already. I've seen that video. Okay. I'm going to do one last check on Reddit for anything new, and then I'm going to call it a night. And there are some very large streams out there. I would strongly recommend first of all, Funker 530 put one on live. I don't know if they're done by now. There's Mercado Media. That's another good one. He's an earlier live streamer. I think he's on right now. You're probably going to get like an Artur Ray. Who else? I've got a list of some other ones that are live right now. Vlad Vexler is live. He's very cerebral. I'm not sure. He's not for everybody. Starsky is not live. Yeah, but Mercado Media is live. The Shills are live. I would recommend for sure. And Funker's still live. So Funker 530, The Shills, and Mercado Media are the 3 live ones that I'm following right now. I would hop over and check any of them out. I do like them all. They're awesome. Ronnie on Funker 530 is great. He's an military intelligence guy. The Shills, I believe the main guy's Canadian. He has a lot of guests on, and they're a really, really good group of guys. They fundraise a lot. And then Mercado Media, Andrew Mercado is a former U.S. military. I believe he was a Mike 88. He was a military truck driver. Vehicle driver, I don't want to say truck driver, but he drove a lot of vehicles, took care of a lot of vehicles, whatever, and he deployed a couple times as well. Ronnie, I think, deployed as well on the intelligence side of things. So anyways, those are some people I'd recommend checking out. Again, if anybody listens to this after the fact, please add comments, like, subscribe, share. I welcome anybody and everybody to hop in and ask some questions, provide some comments, that sort of thing. Love to get the comments and the algorithm out and the views up, so the algorithm starts to bump me up on people's views, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tonight. It's my first live stream in a long time, and I thought it was a good time to do it. I wanted to get some information out there, but at the same time let everybody know that it is a very fluid situation. Things will change, people will live, fake videos will be posted to grab attention, to fake you out, to fake out the enemy, that sort of thing. So make sure you're asking the questions, what, when, why, is this probable? Look for validation, look for a second or third source before you think anything is actually engraved in stone. Always question sources, including myself. I could have an axe to grind, you never know. But other than that, that is it for me this evening. I really appreciate you all. 1 second, and I'm just going to read comments before I go. Yeah, friendly fire is a major concern inside your own borders, inside the Russian borders. And again, I don't want any innocent Russian civilians, for example, to get shot, or injured, or that sort of thing. And again, it's like Wagner's bad. The Russian Ministry of Defense is bad. The military is bad for invading Ukraine. But at the same time, there are going to, as soon as you cross into Russia, just like when you cross into Ukraine, you're going to be encountering civilians. You're going to be encountering police officers. You're going to be encountering nervous people, nervous conscripts with guns and that sort of thing. And a lot of bad can come of it, even worse than is planned. That's all I'm saying. But primary focus is on Ukraine, and I didn't really focus a lot on that tonight, but I think it's very obvious for most of us. This in the short term and probably long term only benefits Ukraine. If you have 2 or 3 enemies fighting against each other as opposed to all fighting against you, that is a good thing. They're going to rip each other apart, or at least the focus is going to turn away from Ukraine for a short period of time. Ukraine has a lot of troops in reserve. They've been waiting for an opportunity. This very well could be that opportunity to push and probe even harder, find that break in the line. I think they're going to cross in Kherson, across the Dnipro, and I think they're going to cross in another spot in Zaporizhia or Donetsk where they find a break. I think they're going to connect the two together. They're going to cut off retreat, and they're going to bleed the rest of the troops dry. And this is an opportunity that you cannot ignore. You have to take advantage of it, and I think the Ukrainians are going to take advantage of it based on what we're hearing about increased artillery and attacks across the whole front line from Ukraine into Russian-occupied held territories. I think tonight's coup attempt is one shoe of about 100 that are going to drop over the next week. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be wild. So stay tuned. I'll try to keep you informed, but make sure you check out other sources as well. I really appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. It was great to see some chats, some comments, answering some questions. And we'll talk soon. Slava Ukraini.